You bring your whole self, you're embedded fully to the job, and you can work 30%, 70%, 50%. So it's not really a pure part-time job. Startups are mostly aiming to use fractionals for a couple of reasons. First, they're still bootstrapping work. Second is paying a junior full-time versus a senior part-time. I meet hundreds of women entrepreneurs and executives, and I can see that by nature they are more entitled to take this role of family care, so they need to have this flexibility.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now let's get it started. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm your host today, and we have Arta Istrefi in our studio today. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm so happy you're here. This is going to be an awesome conversation. Do me a favor. If you're tuning in, I would love it if you would like, subscribe, hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now, without further ado, could you give our audience a little bit of background about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Arta. I have extensive experience in private sector development. I've worked as a political advisor to the Minister of Trade and Industry. My background is in economics and business administration, currently finishing PhD in entrepreneurial marketing and digital transformation. And I'm a startup mentor. Lately, we started a joint business called Narwhal Network with a co-founder that is based in US. We are trying to really help redefining the future of work or helping out people in need to find themselves in this shaking world of how we actually see the future of.
So I understand. Let's kind of frame this for our audience. What is the most important thing you want the audience to get out of the show?
So my intention here is to talk about Narwhal Network and what we are cooking for people that want to see themselves in this, what we call acceleration relationship cultivation, which is a kind of reimagining the CRM as a tool that kind of bridges the connection quickly and effectively, ensuring that the right people meet at the right time, especially with technology and with a lot of work. We see this as a very important way that we still keep connected with each other. And it's more a tailored connected rather than a transactional connection. So it's more the purposeful networking. So I want to talk more about what we are doing with Narwhal Network, how we can help people use their network as their power, the referral to get more engagements, and the fractional work, as well as my passion towards supporting women entrepreneurs.
Sure. Awesome. You dropped a whole bunch of things here. All right, let's start with the Narwhal Network. What exactly is the Narwhal Network, and why is it important?
It has been 9 months since we started Narwhal Network. It was a discovery phase that was a very interesting journey for me because we started as a job placement. So really like matching the fractional workers with the companies. We've pivoted a lot since then. After, the market kind of gave us the right approach to tell us what is really needed, so what are the problems that we need to solve. So then we started to build this ARC, which is accelerated relationship cultivation. It's a new or reimagining this CRM model, which was more transactional, which was more rigid and sometimes challenging to organize relationships for individuals. There are many CRM tools out there that help individuals to better plan their work. But with ARC, what we want to do is to bridge the relationship between individuals, because for fractionals, for highly professional people, we noticed from the market as well that jobs don't come from applying to a proper job, but rather they come through referrals. Now with the AI, it's an additional challenge because you can make the best CV and you can look really good, but then people need to back up who you really are, what they really think about you. So the power of referral will be even more vivid in the future, especially for the C-level people. With Narwhal, we focus only on fractionals. Fractional are workers that might be dedicated to us, to a project to a work. How we see fractionals is that you bring your whole self, you're embedded fully to the job, and you can work 30%, 70%, 50%. So it's not really a pure part-time job, but it depends on the need from the company or the startup that is engaging this person. We are seeing more and more that this full-time job is already outdated and people want to really hire what they need to, and also the productivity increased. So now people can do a lot more job like faster and shorter in time. So we are seeing this trend upcoming, particularly in developing countries.
Interesting. Okay. How do you see the next, 2 to 3 years in this space, in the fractional space?
In the 9 months, we've seen so many changes that I would not even imagine, but I can see that now it's getting the shape a little bit, because after COVID, everyone realized that, our time is really valuable. We want to spend more time with our family. There are many things that, like we want to be entitled to. And then people realize that actually work is not just about money. You do some work for soul fulfillment, then some for vacation, some for your family income that you need to. By this, I mean every individual has their own portfolio. That's how we portray people, that you have your own portfolio. You have the time and talent. This is what everyone is selling these days mainly. Knowing how to use the time and talent is extremely important. With so many calls out there that you need to go back to work, we've seen also the resistance of people that they are not ready to go back to work, or especially in the sort of rigid type of works where you have to punch in and punch out with cards, but rather they would like to have this flexibility that is more result driven, that you do your work, but then you have time for yourself or for other engagements, other projects. And this trend is actually growing rapidly. Like we are seeing more and more people portraying themselves as fractionals, being very interested to work. We have met so many people that are working in corporates and are ready to leave their jobs if they would have an opportunity as a fractional, even if they would get paid less, because we are talking about this flexibility. We are talking about the time to choose, in a way of simply not having that rigid time frame where you have to be in person, present in the office for a specific time frame. And that's sometimes also have like psychological effect that, pushing on being punctual or having this corporate mindset that regardless whether you're working there or not, you have to be in the office. So people really value this result-driven projects. And we are seeing that more and more fractionals are becoming full fractional, which means they can have up to 3 projects at the same time, turning into solopreneurs where they can also create their small company, as well as really portraying themselves as a portfolio carrierist. When I mentioned this ARC, this tool that we're building for fractionals, we saw that personal branding, financial part, these are lots of puzzles that every company, every business is trying to find a way how to do that. But what we saw in practice is that actually the best jobs that people got were through referrals. These referrals are from people that they worked in the past or they met somehow. So imagine if you are already engaged with so many things in your life and there's a birthday out there of someone that you care in reality, but you're just so busy that you forget about that. So there will be a lot of engagements in the personal part of relationship, because so far the kind of relationship that we've seen were more transactional. Hey, I need to do this. Like, would you help me on that? But rather a perfect relationship is the one that also is built up with years. And also it's built up with things other than work, which means either personal side, family side, friendly wise, so that it creates this whole package. Because the more we work with artificial intelligence, the more we value the values of people that bring in, because most of the work is something you can learn. But it is the people that really matters a lot. It's very important what kind of reputation that person had in the past, so that this other company would like to hire or not. So this referral will be a powerful tool, that there's one profile where you view yourself as you think you are. And then there are other people who would say things or recommend things for you. but not typically on, clicking AI tools that makes the puzzle, but have an honest opinion on each other so that it builds to create also this personal branding that then creates some additional benefits for the future.
So if I understand correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong, but so the purpose of the network itself is to kind of create a community where people can support each other and develop these profiles to be able to recommend people to certain jobs or roles that are available. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's actually a community-driven model for sure. So this is how we got inspired, that you curate this connection and benefits of the entire ecosystem, if I can call it, because everyone has some kind of an ecosystem, which means creating different angles of your work rather than focusing on a very individual gain. Because when I said about this recommendation and referral, this is kind of an extra work for an individual, but it's part of a community where you show that, I care about XYZ person because I worked in the past. So that by doing that, you're helping this other person maybe get another engagement or so, or simply having like a real picture of this person. And I'm not only referring to cases that are positive. You can also say that, I met this guy and he or she broke many bridges in the past. I had this very bad experience with this person. And if that was your experience, that also helps, because we're not here to just say, find a glittery post so that this person gets a job, but have this honest opinion about one another. And I think this is what the community and what giving back and caring for each other means, at least in my opinion.
It sounds like it's just the top tier folks, if you will, and people that are willing to engage that would really be successful in that model. How does one get from being outside the network to becoming successful in the network?
We have a website called Narwhal Network, and we already have a lot of hundreds of subscribers where we're keeping engaged with events, with information, with discovery calls that we will check each and every one of these people that are joining our platform. And we're continuing to have that. We are already building up the community and we're talking every day to more and more people. And it is the fractionals that we met that made us create this tool, this platform, because they saw that this is a much needed platform. I mean, obviously, we have our strategy in terms of the marketing and content and how we will reach out to people. But as I said, we've already interviewed around 400 people so far that are fractionals. And this is how we came up to the result of building up a tool that would make their life easier and probably also get a lot more engagement. This is the type of business that we believe that's going to change really the future of work, because I believe that the style of working is going to change for sure in the future. It is changing. We will see a lot more change in the future.
I remember when we were coming out of COVID, one of the concerns this is from the media. I don't know if this was reality, but they were talking about concerns about like job stacking, where people would take on a bunch of, at the time the term was just freelance jobs. And the article that I'm thinking of seemed to imply that the overall productivity or the quality of work wasn't quite what was being expected. How do you see that playing out successfully? You talked earlier about people having, 3 or 4, different roles in their portfolio, or 3 or 4 different companies in their portfolio.
Sure. This is not the kind of job for everyone. First of all, not everyone is good with time management. That's why we're not aiming to have the whole world in this network. But certainly there are people who manage pretty well their time and projects. And in terms of the quality of work, one is that, as I mentioned earlier, fractionals are people that bring your whole portfolio to the table, to the work or the project that you're aiming. Besides manufacturing, almost in most of the companies, you need to have more than one skill. So working in other jobs, I believe, would only complement each other in terms of the project. Doing things superficially then is a different story, because these are maybe individuals that won't really get many projects done. That's why we believe this referral and this collaboration between people makes a huge difference. So you filter these people out, like performing and non-performing people.
Right.
But in terms of being able to do more than one job, for sure, this model has been tested for years with freelancers, consultants, different roles that have been used in the past. The difference is that these consultants were paid per project, specifically for some KPIs that were driven by an organization or company, whereas fractionals are actually workers. Like, you have to work with a team. You're engaged in the team. You're just not full-time, but you're there part-time, 30%, 70% based on the company. So you are engaged in the team and in day-to-day basis with them, compared to a freelancer that is maybe an outsider that gives you document, a strategy, a perspective, or something like that. So fractionals are really the workers of the company. And if you're not performing, then for sure you're out, like depending on how the company views that. And individuals, fractionals, know and see that. I think the goal of a fractional is really to have this flexibility to choose in terms of timing that, as I said, is like a result driven. That I did my work, I'm free to go now because I have other things to do. And there are so many people that could choose just a part-time worker. Think about women that small kids or elderly people taking care of. They are happy to work only 3 hours per day, let's say, or 4 hours or whatever. Not necessarily you have to have multiple engagements, but that type of work gives you the flexibility to even think for your future, for yourself, for your family, or for other possible side gigs that you might have.
Interesting. How are companies receiving this? I talked about, briefly about productivity. You mentioned earlier that there were companies that are trying to bring folks back in-house. What are companies saying, and how do you see them evolving to accommodate the future of work as you've described it?
Startups are the companies that are mostly aiming to use fractionals for a couple of reasons. First, they're still bootstrapping or trying to get the first revenues, so they don't have enough money or need to have a full-time worker. Second is paying a junior full-time versus a senior part-time. Financially would be probably the same, but the quality of work would be different. So startups are very happy to have fractionals hiring in their team, or even give equity, give shares in the companies, because this is how they keep them engaged with the company, kind of pay them back for the work that they're doing. For other companies, more established companies, it's a very basic thing. There's no company that wants to pay a lot for a worker, or like wants to hire someone full-time just because they want to hire them. For sure, there are legal issues. There's a lot of knowledge that needs to be done from the perspective of a company, because sometimes it's very challenging how to hire, why to hire, what are the job description. We've seen some cases that the company would hire a fractional CMO and then ask a lot more work to do on the side, which would then turn out to be a full-time worker rather than a fractional. But this is a discussion that is happening. It's almost like an educational process, which is happening between fractionals and companies. So it's not there yet in a way that everyone knows their role and everything is clear. We are aware of all the challenges, but I guess it's a two-side work that we need to do as Narwhal Network to first and foremost, teach and explain to fractionals what are your roles and responsibilities, so that they can talk for themselves to the company and say, okay, this is the contract, this is what I need to do, we have to keep the agreement. I believe that this is less of a challenge for startups, because as I said, they just started, they're about to give shares, equity, other forms of compensation, so that they get these best talented people in their team, which then helps them grow and elevate their business. But for more established companies, for different varieties of industries, it is still a challenge to understand how to hire these people. And then, of course, there are also rules and legislation in different countries. Like in developing countries, this is still not something that could be done maybe quickly, or in countries like Germany, where they have very rigid laws when it comes to hiring part-time workers or freelancers. It is more challenging for companies to accept this. but still there are always forms how to find a collaboration between a fractional and a company.
So do you see the Narwhal Network getting involved in, some of those legislative conversations as your global reach increases?
We have already been contacted by some European companies that are working with European Commission on the future of work policy, because it is changing a lot, especially with AI, that they want to integrate what are maybe the risks or how will the future of work look like. We would collaborate only in the sense of providing information that we have, but we are a business. We want to remain in the fractional, helping them find their next engagement, connect them with their network, help them through the referral. And also in later stages, we have other plans in the financial part where, we would sort of play the role of a back office for finance for these fractionals, because we will see that this is going to be a next challenge in terms of payment, because not everyone would be in the payroll of a salary that would get like on the first of every month, let's say. With fractionals, there might be some challenging payment, which we are seeing in the market, and we will probably deal with this in the next phase of Narwhal Network.
Amazing. How are you supporting women that are going into fractional?
Women in particular, first of all, my PhD and my career is really into this empowering women. So I meet hundreds of women entrepreneurs and executives, and I can see that it is kind of by nature. Of course, I don't want to sound like a gender bias, but by nature, they are more entitled to take this role of family care and have a lot of thoughts in their mind. So they really need to have this flexibility. I've talked to so many of them in the last 6 months, and they are seeing this as the future for them to be able to balance the work and the family. Because with the current type of traditional work, it is almost impossible to be able to work and have a family. The 9-to-5 job is mainly considered to be for men rather than women or the both parents, because in most of the cases, one of the parents has to stay at home or get another flexible job so that there will be availability for kids at home. So having this opportunity to work as a fractional, particularly for different projects, having the possibility to grow outside their comfortable zone or the country, because we're talking about possible remote engagements or with some small traveling trip, they are more than happy to have this possibility. And it's very interesting because I consider that they are more risk averse, like women are in general more risk averse when it comes to trying new things. But in this situation, they will be like, I'm all in. I'm really excited for this, because then I would be a much happier mom at home to deal with my family, but at the same time have this job on the side, which makes me feel sort of alive and professional growth and all that.
Wow. So you're seeing a lot of women join the network now?
Yes, absolutely.
That's wonderful.
I'm part of the female founder global network of women. So I have like a lot of communication with them, and we're trying to have a lot of fractionals joining from female factor to our Narwhal network community.
Do you find that sometimes when it comes to taking these sorts of roles, women may, again, just thinking from the perspective of, perhaps like beliefs or whatever, do you feel like sometimes people undersell themselves? And in that case, how do you support them? How do you get them to say, hey, you're actually at, this level, not this level, and let's push you in. I'd love to see you in, XYZ role.
Yeah, I think pricing is generally one of the biggest challenge both for men and women, because it's very difficult to put a price tag on yourself. Like you never know whether you're too high or too low, but particularly for women, there are tons of reports that show that women underestimate themselves, underevaluate themselves in terms of the financial offer, and have less negotiation skills when it comes to having deals compared to men. So part of the platform for sure will be a lot of the, this what we call educational part, where we will give lots of tips, and we're already giving that through our newsletter. Some of them are particularly for women, like how to negotiate a contract or how to price yourself, even how to calculate your time, because I think that's very important. Sometimes push ourselves too hard to say like, okay, we have 8 hours. and then we try to fit in with so many works at the same time. But we forget that there is also time where we need to breathe and eat and recharge ourselves. So I think that's also important to consider in whatever math that we want to use in terms of pricing ourselves. But again, like I fully agree that especially on women, we've seen they lack the skills, or maybe they are more, how to say, like, one is that they undervalue themselves for sure. And second is the negotiation skills, because they believe that that amount of money is enough for them instead of pushing a little hard and negotiating to get a better deal for them. Things are changing positively, but still in the overall, there's an above average case where women are underpricing themselves.
Are there other challenges or biases that women face? We talk about family, we talk about negotiation and pricing themselves. So I'm a woman, I'm coming to you, I'm saying, hey, I want to do this. What other things might I be concerned about?
It's good that the companies is set up in a way that I have that perspective of women, because sometimes men view this that, this is a very merit-based, like I don't want to deal with conversation and stuff like that. But for me, it was always this thing of pushing women, inspiring women to join networks. As part of my PhD, I actually had one component of measuring the network for women entrepreneurs in the Western Balkan. And it's very interesting because they are so selective when it comes to networking, because they always consider this as a time, like, what am I getting out of this? So it's not easy for them to have this like explosion of so many opportunities out there to filter that out and to say, okay, Narwhal Network is the one I want to be in. But we want to make it easy getting in, like the onboarding process for them. And we believe that we're already bringing value through all the communication that we're having with them. And I guess when people are satisfied with the services, then the rest of them will come because they know that you're bringing the value for them.
So I've joined the network. I've gotten a job. How does Narwhal continue to support, as I'm developing my portfolio list?
Think about this CRM as a tool where you have so many options there, but just trying to reimagine that this is more like a cultivated type of relationship. So you have a job, let's say you have it for 6 months or a year or even more, but then you always have some side free time to do something else, either try a project outside your country or have a possible collaboration, or even share your experience with the team, with the community in Narwhal Network. What this tool will do is that you will have your own personal profile, where you consider this as almost like your own website with all these information, the Slack channel inside your profile where you communicate with your own network. So you share this experience with the company you're working for, ask for other side jobs, or refer that to the company you start working with.
Okay. So you guys are continuing to, I guess, develop these relationships. What is going to be that portfolio mix? What would that look like? Would that look like, I get 3 jobs that take up 30% of my time, or is there an ideal mix that you guys would recommend?
No, I think this is very individual. We've seen cases where, there's a person that is very good in accounting, but they also love music. So they love arts, let's say. You can have a job in both of these, if I can call it, 2 extremes in terms of fields, because one of them brings you the passion, but you still get paid for that passion, that you put a lot of time maybe on that. And this other job is bringing you money, but somehow it's very technical, that you are not super happy with that, but is bringing you some money. So you want to do that. And then you have some other job, which is more executive role, which requires you to think about solutions that you're bringing in. So this is more like the typical, if I can call it, like 3 type of engagements that you have. Or you are a typical CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, which you actually work for different companies. One might be an early stage startup, the other one more mature startup. So it's a different type of strategy that you are entitled to do. And one requires, let's say, less time from yourself, because for an early stage startup, you already know exactly what to do. It's a much easier job maybe to do for you. Whereas for the scale up, you need to think more, you need to spend more time on that so that you bring value to the company. So I believe that for every kind of role, we are more easygoing, higher productivity, so we can take that job because it's not a burden for us too much. Like it doesn't stress us out that much. Whereas some jobs that are either being considered that you have to think a lot more, to analyze, to read, to discuss, you then have to put some effort on it and also to consider that you need more time for that. Simple as that. Yeah. So I think it's very individual. You can never say that this is like there's a perfect calculation or percentage of that. The idea is that you can have one job and that's it. Like it can be 30%, 50%, because that's what you feel this moment. Or you are at the time of life where you need to have a lot of money and you want to work multiple jobs. I believe that just like strategy, life is in sequencing. So depending on which sequence you are, then you find your right tuning in. So you find the jobs that are applicable for you.
As a general statement, I guess for, really for people that are considering going into fractional, what characteristics would you say make people most successful?
I've been a fractional myself for years. And one of the reasons why I was very excited about this is that I could see myself that I faced a lot of challenges with people by telling me that, oh, why you're not focusing on one thing? Why you're doing all the time more than one thing? Like, why is that urge from your side? And I guess number one piece of character that you have to have is curiosity. Like you're never enough in terms of learning. Like you're fine with this job. It's a new job. You're learning something, but you want more. You can have that energy that you want to do more. Two is that you're very good in time management. Like there are so many people out there that spend a lot of time scrolling, spending time with people, talking about so many things. That is time. So it does matter how you use this time. And then even with meeting other people, like there are two kinds of people, like those that want to just, discuss things out of the blue, and other people that are still curious to ask about professional, personal questions, see how we can collaborate, see how we can help each other, or how we can connect you with another person. Again, it's about this personality in terms of the curiosity and the kind of conversation you have. And these relationships that you build matters a lot, because those relationships bring you value and bring you job opportunities in the future. Because you kind of just tell them that, let's say, I'm passionate about women and entrepreneurs. I'm passionate about empowering women. And then I'm sure that this person, after leaving, like in a month or two, he or she would say, oh, Arta told me that she's very passionate about that. And I could see from her eyes. So I'm going to call her and let her know that there's a project about that. And then when it comes to time management, there are sometimes that, these kind of engagements do clash with each other. It's not a perfect fit that you do the work here and there. Time and stress are very, very important. Like, that there's a week that is super crazy for you, but it's going to be 1 week. It's not your whole life. So you kind of get prepared for that. Prepare yourself that, okay, this week is going to be really challenging, but from weekend and onwards, I'm more relaxed on that. So you put a priority to the work that you got. So I guess it's all about this balancing and priorities. Sometimes priority is just family and vacation and having fun time. And sometimes it's really work, like 100% of that is work. Again, curiosity, time management, and building relationship with people, everyone around you, building relationship, even with the kid. Like if you know the kind of conversation you do with him or her, it always brings some lights in your mind and bring you more ideas of what could you do next? What is the next thing that you're interested in?
This has been really, really helpful, really enlightening for me. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Subscribe to Narwhal.network. Have a discovery call with me. Personally, there's a link also once you're subscribed, you get a link from having an intro call. And connect with me in LinkedIn as well, so we could connect with each other and see how I could help through Narwhal Network.
Awesome. And I will put that in our show notes. So anybody that wants to get that information, you can go right there to see that. Arta, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise, it has been a great pleasure. Thank you so much, Rick. And thank you all for listening to this podcast.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll catch you next time.